Hey everyone, it's Tomer, and welcome back to Budget Commander. I recently had the good fortune of helping spoil Neheb, Dreadhorde champion, where I briefly talked about the impact this card can have in Commander as a whole, both as part of the 99 of different decks and as a commander of his own deck. After sending off my part in the article, I couldn't stop thinking about this new Neheb. There was a certain spark about him, so I decided to fully explore this sweet new commander with an article and video. Neheb supports a lot of different strategies, but the version that I'm going for is a Voltron strategy with a powerful graveyard sub-theme. At first glance, Neheb doesn't look up to par with the more popular Voltron choices. He doesn't have the insanely high damage potential of someone like Rafik of the Many, nor does he have any built-in protection from removal like Sigarda, Host of Herons, or Uriel the Miststalker. And yet, Neheb is a powerful option for Voltron because of his unique ability to abuse certain cards available to red. Neheb's power lies in his triggered ability. If you deal combat damage to a player or planeswalker, you may discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards and generate that much red mana. So not only is Neheb a very powerful looter, but he's also an incredibly potent mana ramp. This puts him in a prime position to abuse some of Red's signature cards, extra combat steps. As long as you have cards to discard, you can attack with Neheb, trigger his ability to loot while generating mana, then use that mana to pay for an extra combat spell like Seize a Day, letting you attack again and repeat the process. Not only can you chain together extra combat spells to dish out a ton of damage while also looting a whole bunch, you can straight up take infinite combat steps with cards like Aggravated Assault, paying for its activated ability by discarding 5 cards each combat. Like I said, he looks unassuming, but he's a beast when paired up with the right cards. But Neheb doesn't just support a unique Voltron strategy. Since we are looting so much with him, we can also run a graveyard theme in the deck to take advantage of all the cards we're discarding. While Red isn't usually known for its graveyard cards, it actually has some powerful recursion options. After we've filled our graveyard, we can get all the artifacts we discarded back with Scrap Mastery, or cast all the instants and sorceries with Mizzix's Mastery. We also have some powerful cards to recur creatures. God Pharaoh's Gift is the perfect fit for a Neheb deck because not only do we get token versions of all the creatures we discard, but the trigger happens at the beginning of combat step, which means it only gets better with our extra combat spells. So our goal with Neheb is to try and kill people with a Voltron strategy, but we're not all in on that goal. As we're attacking with Neheb, we're simultaneously filling our graveyard with things we can recur later. We're just as capable killing our opponents with our powerful graveyard recursion as we are with commander damage. This makes our deck non-linear, super versatile, and definitely a unique and fun experience. Or that's the hope, at least. This video will go over the Voltron aspect of the deck, then the graveyard aspect, and finally combine the two with full deck lists. As always, however, this video is meant to be a brief summary of the deck. If you want a more in-depth look at Neheb, check out the article link in the video description below. The first part of our Voltron plane are the extra combat spells. All of them are good, but these 4 are the best. Aggravated Assault is the best of the best since you can take infinite combat steps if you have 5 cards to discard. Hellkite Charger does the same thing, but you need 7 cards in hand. Seize the Day is exceptional because it's cheap and even has flashback. Savage Beating is more expensive, but if you entwine the spell to give Neheb double strike, you're dishing out 4 times the commander damage and getting 4 combat triggers with Neheb, which is absurd. Double strike is very good. Which brings us to the second part of our Voltron plan. Double Strike. Giving Neheb Double Strike means we dish out double the commander damage and get double the combat triggers, so that's double the looting and mana ramp. Not only that, but Double Strike lets Neheb survive attacks into potential blockers where he'd usually be vulnerable to dying due to his low toughness. It's not quite evasion, but any creature with 5 or less toughness won't be able to trade with him anymore. So Double Strike is just as important to Neheb as most of the extra combat spells, and together they're absolutely ridiculous, as we see with Savage Beating. Blood Mist, Assault Strobe, and Fire Shrieker are some of the best options to give him Double Strike. Next, Neheb needs haste to start swinging immediately. Anger is a no-brainer inclusion in the deck since we can consistently discard it and we're running tons of mountains, so this is essentially free permanent haste for our creatures. Other excellent options include Obsidian Battle Axe, which is free to equip if you cast Neheb after it since he's a warrior. Reckless Charge can be cast from the graveyard due to flashback, and Ogre Battle Driver is always strong but gets even better if you run Creature Recursion. All three of these haste enablers also bump up Neheb's power to at least 7, which means he can deal the lethal number of 21 commander damage in 3 attacks if unblocked, instead of his normal 4 attacks, which greatly increases the chances that we can kill people with him. Finally, it's always important to wear protection, and it's even more so when we're investing so heavily into our commander. Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots both provide haste and protection from targeted removal. Champion's Helm swaps out haste and instead bumps Neheb's power to the important 7 spot, and Darksteel Plate can protect Neheb from most forms of board wipes. With extra combat steps, double strike, haste, and a layer of protection, Neheb is ready to smash faces while looting through our entire deck. Now, while I stand by the fact that you can never draw too many cards, it's important to note that if you are taking infinite combat steps and drawing 5 or more cards per combat, you may end up decking yourself. To combat this, we need to run 1 or 2 cards that can refill our library. Elixir of Immortality, Felden's Cane, and Thran Foundry all can be activated to shuffle our entire graveyard back into our library. The best of these, however, is Library of Leng, which lets us put cards back on top of our library instead of discarding them. That means we can discard our entire hand to Neheb to generate the maximum amount of mana with him, and we still get to keep the cards we want to keep by putting them on top of our library and immediately redrawing them. Also, Library of Leng grants us no maximum hand size, which doesn't hurt. Now that we've covered the Voltron aspect of Neheb, it's time to talk about our graveyard aspect. We're going to be discarding a ton of cards with Neheb, so we should put them to good use. Red's best recursion options are found mostly in Artifact and Spellslinger Recursion. My favorite of the two for this deck is Artifact Recursion. Goblin Welder, the Ready Scrap Savant, and Trash for Treasure can swap a small artifact we have on the battlefield for a much more impressive one in our graveyard. It feels amazing sacrificing a Mind Stone that taps for 1 mana and bringing back a Gilded Lotus that taps for 3. But the best of the bunch, when we have a full graveyard, is Scrap Mastery, which swaps the few artifacts we have in play for a graveyard that is stuffed with discarded shinies. Artifact Recursion doesn't just stop there either. Artifacts like Mirror Retriever and Junk Diver bring back an artifact when they die, which we can sacrifice to previously mentioned cards like Goblin Welder to get back 2 artifacts for the price of 1. Scrap Trawler is similarly amazing artifact recursion, and Pia's Revolution is an underrated gem that either dishes out a ton of damage to opponents as you sacrifice artifacts for value, or you can work with opponents to get key cards back. Because we're friends, right? A bunch of instants and sorceries reward you for looting as well. Flashback cards like Increasing Vengeance and Past in Flames can be cast from the graveyard for sweet value, and the strongest option of all is overloading Mizzix's Mastery when you have a stacked graveyard full of powerful instants and sorceries. There's many more options I could have listed here, but you know which one's my favorite? Thunderblade Charge. Yes, this is a real card. Thunderblade Charge can be looted away, and then whenever you deal combat damage, you can immediately recast it to Lightning Bolt something. Yes, it costs a lot of mana, and yes, it's only 3 damage, but come on. This is amazing for picking off small utility creatures like Oracle of Moldiah, and it's a repeatable spell from your graveyard. Look, it's a pet card, and I love it, and I'm not ashamed of it. Moving on. There aren't a lot of creature recursion options in Red, but these two happen to be amazing. God Pharaoh's Gift and Felden of the Third Path. God Pharaoh's Gift synergizes well with our extra combat spells because it can create a token each combat, while Felden costs 3 mana to activate and usually just reanimates 1 creature per turn, but the creature isn't exiled and it's an artifact which then enables artifact synergies. Both are fantastic in this deck. There's other random payoffs to all our looting. Soul of New Phyrexia can be activated from the graveyard as an amazing trick to make your board indestructible in response to, let's say, a board wipe, and Runehorn Hellkite can wheel us into 7 new cards from the grave. We can also take advantage of the act of discarding cards with Madness cards. None of the ones available to us are that great, but they're decent options if you are on a tight budget. With so much of our deck invested in looting, we can't rely entirely on Neheb to do the drawing and discarding for us. Luckily, Red is a master at drawing and discarding cards. There's traditional looting effects like Faithless Looting and Cathartic Reunion, but even more important are wheels like Dragon Mage and Magus of the Wheel that often net us card advantage as we draw 7 cards. The wheels are what keep this deck spinning. Speaking of drawing cards, this card is so good in this deck that it deserves its own slide. Alhamaret's Archive is disgusting here. All our looting effects become massive card draw spells. When we discard cards with Neheb, we draw double that many cards. Our wheels draw 14 instead of 7 cards. This is nuts. Absolutely nuts. It's hard not to win the game once Archive resolves. Unfortunately, it's currently $15 US, so it's outside of the range of most budget lists, but this is the type of card you should definitely splurge on when looking to upgrade. And that wraps up the review of the key components of the deck. 1/2 Voltron, 1/2 Graveyard, entwined together as a unified whole. Now we add the usual deck fundamentals of mana and interaction, and voila! Here's our first budget deck, currently priced at $50. The Voltron part of this deck focuses on casting Neheb, giving him haste and protection, then beating face with double strike and extra combat steps, while we go looting for more combat steps and discard cards we'll want to recur later. Our graveyard strategy leans heavily on artifacts, with cards like Goblin Welder and Junk Diver grabbing back the artifacts we loot away. If Neheb gets shut down, we're happy to grind out our opponents, constantly getting back removal like Duplicant and Spine of Ishsa, or beating face with Steel Hellkite and Mirror Battlesphere. The deck can utterly destroy people in one turn, but it also has built-in resiliency for a long game. The next list is the same as the previous one, but with tons of upgrades. We've added Aggravated Assault as our best infinite combo, Felden of the Third Path as our best creature recursion, and Alhamaret's Archive as our best silly nonsense. The mana base is far better with stuff like Inventor's Fair for tutoring and Strip Mine to make dumb British people cry. We've got better mana rocks like Soul Ring, tutors like Gamble and Kildotha Forgemaster, better wheels, better everything. The list is $300, with the budget basically being me not spending more than $50 on a single card. On that note, I really hope they reprint Sword of Fire and Ice and Sword of Light and Shadow in the near future. They're the perfect cards for Neheb because they get more powerful with extra combat steps and double strike, while also providing Neheb with protection and evasion against the protected colors, and they bump his power to 7, which means he can 3-shot people instead of 4-shot people. They're really, really good. Buy them if you can. They're amazing for Neheb. Please do it, Wizards. Just reprint them, please. And that's it for the budget deck tech. If you're looking for a more in-depth guide, then check out the article linked in the video description. Neheb looks like a blast to play, and I hope you like this analysis of him. I do read all the comments, so let me know which War of the Spark commander you'd like to see next, since I'm looking to knock out 1 or 2 more of these for this set before I go back and continue updating my older articles. Until then, see ya! Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up with the latest and greatest, click on the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to check out similar videos, click on the links here and here.